Well, hi everyone. Another behind the scenes tour at the Ark Encounter. So here we are. We're on deck 2 of the Ark, and it is empty right now because the Ark is closed to the public. But imagine when this is packed with people. Actually, they can spread out. Interesting statistic. In the 3 decks of the Ark, we're actually permitted to be able to exit 10,000 people at one time because we have these big exit stairs in the towers. Mm-hmm. Not that we would want 10,000 people in the Ark at one time.
That'd be a pretty intense day.
But anyway, that's just an interesting statistic. We are permitted to have 10,000 people at one time to exit. I'm with Travis, who's a lead production designer, and we're going to give you some fascinating behind the scenes information here concerning what we call the pre-fall exhibit. Now, at the Creation Museum, we have, as a centerpiece of the museum, we have a walk through the Bible, this walk through the 7 seas of history, and makes the Bible come alive, and it's all very experiential. So we don't do that here at the Ark. It's more that the exhibits are associated with the flood in some way or another, but we do, in a sense, walk you through the 7 seas of history.
Right, because it's
and
still
we start
important.
here, and we do it in painting form, right?
Yeah, it's still important to catch people up with the account, so they're familiar. So yeah, we start here with the days of creation.
So leading up to the flood, so we start at the beginning with the 6 days of creation, and then the Garden of Eden, the perfect world, and then we move on down. So this is just the first part of this exhibit.
Right.
As we come down here. So this is the perfection before sin.
Right.
Now we come down and we're going to portray what happened after sin. And Travis, as we go down there, we're going to show you the dioramas we have down there that the artist did and give you some fascinating information behind the scenes about those dioramas.
Yeah.
But as we do that, you know, one of the struggles that you had as artists was portraying the violence of the pre-fall world, but we have a family-friendly attraction. Was that a struggle for you guys?
Yeah, it really was. We had lots of conversations trying to figure out what really is the perfect balance so that people understand the biblical account. They understand the depth of it, the seriousness of it, but also, like you said, this is a family-friendly attraction. We got to balance that. So it was a huge challenge.
And yet we want even children to understand how violent the world was before the flood, that they were wicked, that they were evil. And so as you come through here, first of all, we have this beautiful artwork that continues this exhibit, man's rebellion. Adam's sin brings death.
Yeah.
And God provides a substitute, the first blood sacrifice as a covering for their sin. And God banishes Adam and Eve from the garden. Cain murders Abel. And then we come into, you know, getting towards the time of the flood and looking at civilization and all that was going on there. The Bible tells us, you know, there were giants on the earth, there was violence.
Yeah, we
see
it
there were
spiral
people
out
working
of control.
with metal and musical instruments. And so imagine a godless world.
Yeah, it just gets darker and darker.
And oh, look, we happen to meet one of the giants.
Yeah. Speaking of darkness.
It's Tim Chafee, our content manager. And the reason we have Tim here is because I thought, Travis, you could explain this diorama. There's 3 dioramas. We're going to give you some fascinating
three main
information.
dioramas here. So this first diorama is our Coliseum Diorama. And in a few of these, we actually have some little cameos. And we're here today with Tim, and his cameo is very apparent.
Cameo. I'm not a little cameo in this.
Well, why don't you go over there and stand beside it here and point.
So thanks, Travis. Here's there's my mini-me, I guess, my action figure.
What was it like posing for us?
It was pretty cool, actually. I don't know if you explained the procedure, but we had 72 cameras set up in a circle at 3 different levels, and you just go in there and stand, do your pose, and they click one button, all 72 cameras fire, and the computer creates a 3D image, and then you had to go in and clean up a little bit. I know on this one, because you wanted to snarl on my face a little more, I had to hold that pose for about 2 minutes, and you took like 20 different pictures, and my cheeks were getting really sore. But it was a lot of fun. You said, do you want me to change up your face so that, people, and I said, no, I want people to be able to walk in there and say, that's Tim. So another fun fact, I'm actually the good guy in this. People think, why are you being so mean to that lady? Well, that lady happens to be our camera person right now. And in our story, she's
so
actually...
you mean that is Maria?
Yeah, that's Maria. So she is, in the story, she's a serial killer. I'm the good guy. She's getting what she deserves.
That's what all villains tell themselves.
That's my side. I'm sticking to it.
And she's not going to turn the camera around on herself here.
I guess not. No, she didn't want to.
So
I think she
maybe
said
she
hadn't
could
showered for a week.
do
No,
a close up of herself there. So, Maria, did you have to pose for that like Tim did? Yeah. She's just shaking her head. Yeah, she did.
Yeah, we had several staff members, help with some of the posing, and that just gave us kind of a base reference point.
We should probably clarify something. We should clarify something as well. What we're wearing in here is not necessarily what we were wearing during the shoot.
Okay.
So Travis had to use some artistic license on the backside here. I was wearing a pair of shorts. And he also had to reduce the muscle mass, otherwise it was just too unbelievable.
So see, I don't think people realize...
I had to define his muscles.
I don't think people realize what goes into an exhibit like this. How many cameras did you say?
I think 72 or 74.
Yeah, so the way it works, there's we rented this rig. It's a photogrammetry rig, a 3D scanning rig. And yeah, it's got 72 cameras on it, and it can be done with more or less, but it's able to take 70 photos all at once, and then what we can do from there is put that into a program that stitches all those images together in a way that gives us a 3D model from it. So it's able to calculate a 3D surface based on 2D images like that.
And then you go and refine the 3D model on the computer.
Yeah, so each model takes a few days to resculpt and reshape, and even in Tim's example, we had a lot of resculpting to do, and defining his muscles a bit, because those
because he doesn't have the ones that
those
he needs.
those flabby writers, content writers muscles.
So let me get back into my outfit.
Yeah.
So once you do that, then how did you print them out 3D?
So then the next step is the 3D printing process. And so what's neat about that that we really utilized here at the Ark is the technology of 3D printing. So when we did the Creation Museum, if we were to approach something like this, all these would be done by hand sculpting every single character, and that takes a really long time.
Because the Creation Museum has been open for 14 years.
Yeah.
Right.
We didn't even have that option at that
stage.
But 3D printing really boomed when we started developing the Ark, and we're like, let's try this, because and we really were able to save a ton of time. Do you have something?
Yeah. So Travis talked about the cameras being around. That wasn't the first way that you scanned images. Actually, just to show you how ingenious some of these guys are, Travis developed like a little turnstile with some LED strips going in, so people could stand in the middle, do the pose, and then he would slowly spin them around while he's scanning them with an Xbox Connect.
Yeah, we actually found some online tutorials how to use a Xbox Connect to 3D scan people, and so that's what we actually used for the majority of the figures. And it wasn't until about halfway through the project that we got this rig that was able to do all this at once. And I'll show you some cool examples of what we did with that.
For this, once we got that rig, he was able to bring people in every 5 minutes. Okay, go do your pose, stand there, click, good, next, and then but the other one you had to stand still for a long time.
So did you do that for every one of these?
Yes. Well, actually, let me explain a couple things here. So here we're looking at a diorama. There is, let's see, I think I counted almost 80 characters just in this diorama. These are a foot tall, so they're pretty big characters. All the characters in the crowd, we did a special way. There's actually only 4 different bodies between all the crowd characters, different arms, and about maybe eight different heads. And so we made them in a way that we could just swap them all and switch them around. And then we just molded and cast those pieces. And so we have very unique individual characters up there that we were able to get from just a few pieces. But then we have these special one-off characters here in the main part of the diorama, and so we got about 20 of those in here. And so yeah, each of these characters were scanned specifically, resculpted specifically for the story of it.
And then somebody had to design the actual backdrop here for the diorama.
Yeah, and that was a lot of fun too. We used our foam urethane spraying machine to just spray on some forms, and then just went and started carving at it. So this was such a fun project to work on.
So this sort of gives a sense of what violence before the flood.
Right. Yeah.
And sort of like in the Coliseum in Rome.
Yeah,
you know.
and you see around this exhibit, we kind of tried to take a survey of what some of the terrible things people have done after the flood and kind of look at, well, maybe this is what they could have done before the flood, kind of a thing.
So then we go
Yeah.
on to the next diorama. So
right.
let's go there.
Yeah, let's
and
check
see
out
what
the
you have
next one.
there. So
then
what
we
is,
have
what
our,
is this one meant to portray?
Yeah, so this portrays just we call it the feast scene. So it's kind of just this opulent feast, kind of like this party scene. People disregarding the valuing of people. They are
Disregarding God.
disregarding
just sensuous
God.
pleasure.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so again, you saw in the last one. One of the things I'll point out is from the get-go when I started designing these things, lighting was on my mind. How do we light these things in a dynamic way? Because you've seen in a lot of museums, more old school dioramas, they'll have a diorama up here, they'll stick a fluorescent, light strip on the inside here and just blast everything with, this very boring fluorescent light. But here, I wanted to make it so it's like you're stepping into a movie set or a theatrical set kind of a thing.
It's amazing.
So it was a lot of fun.
Is that an idol at the back there?
It is, yeah.
You can see
Yeah.
that's lit up at the back there.
Yeah, so we're really able to use lighting in a very dynamic way. And one fun detail, so we were like maybe a week or two from opening, and I was lighting everything, getting all the final tweaks in, and it just wasn't working. There was something not working. It was before I had this fire in the middle here. There was something about it that was making it so that when you looked at it, your eye didn't really go into the center of the diorama. And so just within the last couple weeks before opening, we fabricated this little fire in the middle, and now what it does is really pulls your eye into the center of the scene. And so it's just a fun detail that we were able to make shift at the very end.
So in the new Biblical Authority room at the Creation Museum,
Yeah.
you have these oil lights that
Yeah.
look real.
Yeah.
And I was just looking at these little lamps you have and little oil lamps there. Is it sort of the same?
That was the
sort of,
inspiration, yeah.
That was the inspiration
Yeah.
for it? Because they sort of
Yeah.
look similar in a way.
Exactly, yeah. That was totally the inspiration.
But the ones at the Biblical Authority room, they look like they're burning,
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah. Yeah, the brightness is just enough that you can't really distinguish. So it was we were able to do a lot of different techniques in here. This mosaic floor down here was actually cut on our CNC machine. And so all these little tiles, we had to design those, and all these characters just meticulously sculpted digitally. And again, as Tim mentioned, all these characters, lots of re-sculpting happened. We didn't scan these people quite in the same manner. Everybody that we scan, they're wearing shorts, t-shirts, tank tops, stuff like that. So we have to go in and really use our skills as artists and sculptors to...
And again, a reminder of people that musical instruments,
Yeah,
you see metal,
yeah,
because Scripture says within what? A few generations of
Yeah.
Adam, workers of bronze and iron, and also musical instruments.
right. And so, we're able to bring that world that we see in the Scripture to life and give a plausible, hey, maybe this is what it looked like.
So again, as people come in here, a lot of times people just say, oh, that's a nice diorama, well, that's fascinating, but if
Yeah.
you stop
Exactly.
and look at it,
And I really encourage people when they come through, just stop, look at these things for 5 minutes. Just take 5 minutes and just stare at them. Because what people don't realize is even though they're small, the Coliseum Diorama, for example, had more artists' hands on it than any one exhibit at the whole entire Ark.
is that right?
Yeah. There's more artists that touched that thing.
I mean, these are absolutely stunning,
Yeah.
really, when you
So-
look at them. I see back there, is that one of
Right.
the animals we talked
yeah,
about in
so
the Ark?
that's one of the Thylacis smiluses, an extinct
Yeah, in fact,
marsupial.
we did a behind the scenes looking at Noah language,
yeah.
and in the library, we had his diagram
Yeah, right.
there, the, what'd you call it again?
Thylacis smilus.
Thylacis smilus.
Yeah. I think they sell a T-shirt at the Ark, so you can look for that.
Oh, okay, a Thylacis
Yeah.
smilus t-shirt at the
It's
Ark.
fun. I think my son
And
has one.
That was an animal that Noah, there in his Noah language, was describing.
Yeah.
So-
So a lot of fun details. Let me see. So another little cool detail, the guy in the front here with the long hair is actually my cameo from a 3D scan. giving myself a little bit of a longer beard and longer hair. And then the lady in the back was one of the artists that I primarily worked with sculpting all these characters. That was her cameo as well. So since Tim helped us with a lot of the developing and writing of everything, and this artist, myself, we worked on these guys primarily together, kind of direct the vision of these. We gave ourselves a few little cameos in these.
Yeah. So you can walk through here and smile when you look at those sometimes.
Yeah.
So we go over here. This is the third one. This is the last one here.
Yeah.
Before the artwork, as the flood comes, it starts to,
so this
to
is
destroy
what we call
this violent world.
the ziggurat diorama. So it's a temple scene where, just as like the ancient Israelites dealt with a lot of the Canaanites sacrificing children to their gods, we wanted to show that because it's such a heavy topic that really strikes home just a wicked world.
So I presume you are here portraying even child sacrifice?
Yes.
Because the Bible talks about that.
Right, exactly.
Man doesn't hide it from us.
Yeah.
Got to remember that.
Right.
And worship of pagan gods.
Exactly. Now, and just for clarity, this is the pre-flood world, and we don't know for sure if they did exactly this, but the Bible does say that they were wicked, and so we can,
we can look at
imagine.
how wicked people have been since the flood.
Exactly.
And I'm sure there must be the same sort of wickedness because man's nature is the same.
Yeah.
Our sin nature.
So because of the heaviness of this topic in particular, I couldn't ask anybody to do the scan of holding up the child. So that's actually me as this sort of evil high priest holding my son when he was just a little infant, 3D scan. And that's my wife handing off our son to me. So I didn't feel right about asking anybody to do that because it's such a heavy, dark thing.
Yeah.
But
so you and your wife did that.
Yeah. So we did that. And
that's an interesting backstory that nobody would ever know about that.
And one of the really cool things, so we talked about this photogrammetry rig. One of the things that it lets you do is you take all these photos in a second. So that means you can capture a dynamic moment frozen in time. So one of the things you'll notice is all of their clothing is actually being blown in the wind. We actually 3D scanned everybody with a leaf blower and in costume, and so we were able to blow their costume and get that dynamic wind movement. And it's actually, there's a wind direction from the right side moving towards the back side, and everything's consistent with that. So.
Yeah, I can see that. You know what?
Yeah.
I some of these things I never knew.
Yeah.
This is
fun.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
And people start to realize then, it's not that somebody just did these and threw them together.
Right.
An incredible amount of work.
All these diagrams we had to have to figure out, okay, if this character's standing right here, the wind's going to have to come from here, and we're going to have to, so there's just a lot of details that go into these. And
I've seen dioramas in other museums, but I don't think I've ever seen anything like these three. They're detailed.
I'll be honest, these are a unique thing. Now, there are some incredible dioramas out there, but I have not seen anybody quite do something like this with these dioramas. But so it was just a huge blessing to be able to work on these. I mean, so fun.
So as people plan to come to the Ark Encounter, now when they come on the second deck to this pre-fall exhibit, they'll appreciate so much more these three dioramas and what they see here, the work that went into them, what they portray, and as you say, stand there and look at them, because it'll hold everybody up behind them. Look at
Make
them.
sure there's not too much of a line behind you, but if you got a clear chance, just enjoy them, just check them out.
Teach your children about the wickedness of man before the flood, and why God judged the world. And yet he's a God of salvation. He built an ark. Well, he had Noah build the ark. To save those people that loved him. And 2 of every kind, 7 pairs of some of the land-dwelling, air-breathing animals. So right here, as I stand and look at this diorama, this one, the one there behind me, look at this picture over here, as the flood came, and we're standing in the ark, we're reminded God is a God who is righteous, and he's a God who judges sin and wickedness, but he's a God who provides salvation. You stand here and you get that right here.
And like you said before, like we as artists, we have to be held responsible with making sure that we also relay that truth in the form of these visuals, these dioramas.
And think about it, when people go through the Creation Museum and they're going through the Cave of Sorrows, you know, the corruption sea, the second sea, and you see all the death and horrible things in the world.
Yeah.
Then you see the sacrifice scene, which is a picture of what was to come in Jesus Christ, the Lamb of God who takes away the sin of the world.
Yeah.
And so again, you stand there and realize God judges the wickedness of man. We rebelled against him. Death came into the world. That's why we have such a wicked world. But he's a God who saves. And so right back there in the Garden of Eden, in Genesis 3:15, and then in Genesis 3:21, which is the first blood sacrifice covering for their sin, God judges the wickedness of man but promises a Savior.
Exactly. And that final image in this diorama that you see right there, it really sums it up. Like God still provides this.
Yes, and you see it right here. God judges the wickedness of man, but he provides salvation.
Exactly.
And that's why, as you walk around here on the second deck as well, we have the big door and the cross on it.
Yeah.
As Noah and his family went through a door to be saved, we need to go through a door, the door of salvation, the Ark of salvation, a picture of Jesus.
Yeah.
Judgment and salvation. And you know, that's how it'll be in the end. Those who reject him, judgment, the second death, eternal separation from God.
Yeah.
But those who receive the free gift he provided through his Son, the Lord Jesus Christ, on that cross of Calvary, then salvation.
Right.
Eternity with the Lord.
Yeah.
Wow, and we present that over and over again at the Creation Museum and at the Ark.
Right.
So if people just contemplate this and don't just look at them as just attractive, you know, dioramas and paintings and exhibits, but you start to contemplate these things, there are places you can stand there and teach your children.
Yeah. And it has been cool. I've stood here and just listened to parents and teach their kids as they do come through. And it really does connect with people.
And I love to see that. I love to see families walking through the Creation Museum and I see them stop.
Yeah.
And I see a father or a mother explaining to their children more about that particular exhibit, helping them read it, helping them understand it.
Yeah.
Phenomenal. That's why we need to get back to these attractions being open.
Yeah. That's right.
We do, so people can come.
Yeah. So plan your visit.
And be impacted. So there you are. We learned a lot today.
Yeah.
So thank you for that. Another behind-the-scenes tour. We've got more that you'll be able to see. We'll air more of these. So keep watching for them.